Hey gang, Ronin here. Welcome on back to the Retrocade. It's Sunday. That means it's time for another Suckerpunch Sunday, where we go back through the golden age of gaming from 1984 to 2010 to play a classic fighting or fighting platform-based game. If you've been enjoying the content on this channel, best way you can show it, as always, is to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, ring the bell to be notified of the latest content. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at @RetroCade. Help us hit our goal, if you can, of 100 subscribers as soon as possible to unlock YouTube's customization algorithms and make this channel even better. Also, don't forget about Sports Saturday, where we play a classic sports game from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation. This last week, we played NBA Jam Tournament Edition for the PS1, and it ended up being a real knuckle-biter, coming down to the absolute wire. It's one of the more exciting entries we've done. And also, we start our brand new Let's Play Through feature starting tomorrow. I'm not going to give away what it is. All I will tell you is it's a Nintendo game that you can play on a different console, which is what we're going to do. But it's one of my favorite ones of all time, and I hope you join us for that. So for this week's Suckerpunch Sunday, we're going to go back to the SNK Neo-Geo, and we're going to play a game that came out about the same time as Street Fighter II did in arcades. Definitely tried to capitalize on it, but ended up becoming a game that fell into the background as newer and more popular titles came along with it. We're going to play World Heroes. World Heroes was created by Alpha Denji for SNK as part of the Neo Geo, and it's not a complicated game to play. It's pretty straightforward, so we'll see what we can do over the next half an hour or so. I'm just going to chalk this puppy up full of quarters and go from there. So the premise of this game is that this guy, Dr. Brown, created a time machine by which he ends up pulling in different fighters from all throughout the world in different time periods to compete in this big martial arts tournament. When it came out actually on a couple of different platforms, including the Neo Geo. It came out for the Super Nintendo and even the Sega Saturn, and it was put out on the Pocket version of the Neo Geo back in 1999, but or at least it was slated to, but it was later canceled. But for a 24-bit game, it's it's not as lavish as Street Fighter II was, but it certainly speaks to the mindset at the time of competing console and game makers to see what Capcom was doing. Now you have 8 fighters that you can choose from. Again, they are from different points in history, and they are different styles, obviously. And I didn't realize I had a time period on which I wanted to be able to pick one, so because I had one already in mind. So I'm going to take Brocken, who you can definitely see the influence of characters like, of M. Bison from Street Fighter II, obviously. Except in this game, this guy is German and he's a cyborg, hence the extendable limbs and the different gadgets that he has. So he's essentially Go-Go Gadget Colonel Clank. But like most games at the time, it's a 60-second clock, and it's whoever wins best 2 out of 3 falls wins. But I remember first coming across this game back in the Oregon area when I was living there in Portland in the early 90s. Again, it was the same way I found Samurai Shodown and other popular SNK Neo-Geo games that I still like to play to this day. I will tell you, the gameplay is a lot slower. The movement of the players is a lot more methodical. You have a 3-button option. You have your punch, you have your kick, and you have a throw function as well. Which, if you can place it right, like I just did there, can come in really handy. But like most fighting games, it's understanding pattern recognition and anticipating what your opponent does, being in a good position to counter, and knowing when to attack and how to attack, things like that. But as with all Neo Geo games, the real thing that made it stand out to me, even though it was not a great overall fighting game, is the color of it, is the clarity of the graphics, is the depth of field of it. Again, for a system that back in the day, if you wanted to get a Neo Geo, it was $700 US to get it. By comparison now, if you wanted that system, it'd be approaching at least twice that, if not even pushing $2,000 when adjusted for inflation. And for that price, I mean, you could get a more than adequate PC to be able to play pretty much anything you could ever want on it. I mean, my PC is pretty old. It costs a fraction of that, and I'm able to play games like this thanks to my emulator. But, you know, it was a matter of the Neo-Geo for what you were able to get for it. Just, it was too advanced for its time. And because of that, it ended up not being as popular. Also because you could not get mainline games like you could for the Nintendo and the Sega. Cross-platforming, cross-promotion was great on those systems, but not so much on the Neo Geo. They had a lot more proprietary software and proprietary games, like World Heroes. But the thing about World Heroes was they came out with different versions of it. There was a sequel. This game originally came out in 1992. Street Fighter II came out in 1991. So the influence cannot be overstated. And with the whole idea of being able to create a system like the Neo Geo to have these sort of colorful games. But they did do a sequel. They did World Heroes 2, and then World Heroes Jet, and then World Heroes Perfect was the final version of it, and it came out in '95. The reason why this game did not span more sequels and did not really have an extended lifespan, it was two. It was one, because the game was so simplistic to the point where you could make the argument that if SNK wasn't careful, you know, you could essentially get in trouble for copyright infringement or plagiarism with how some of these characters were. And two, they hit on a much better formula with King of Fighters. The original King of Fighters, as I have played here on Suckerpunch Sunday, and it's a previous episode if you want to go check it out, that came out in 1994. And the impact the King of Fighters had was much more substantial than this game was. So I guess as a test platform to see what the SNK was capable of with its 24-bit graphics processor, that was one thing, but it was when SNK went back to the drawing board and figured out, okay, let's really be able to hit on this by making a game with all new unique characters in King of Fighters. And that series, still to this day, has immense longevity. There's 15 versions of King of Fighters, as opposed to just 5 versions of this. I think I'm fighting right. This looks like a Rasputin Mad Monk almost. Didn't need the lag there. But see, I mean, essentially you get the Psycho Crusher option that you can with M. Bison in Street Fighter, just not quite with the histrionics and the melodramatics of it. I hope I get beat with Brock in here, because I want to be able to play a different character. But having played this as an arcade cabinet, I never did get to the end of it. And part of it was I was also much more interested in playing a game like Samurai Shodown, which did not... It was more unique. It had more interesting characters. You had weaponry instead of just doing standard hand-to-hand fighting. As I'm getting kicked by a guy who has huge feet. There. And hopefully this will let me pick a different guy. You lack maturity, my son. But as you can see, Brocken with a cyborg. Looks like they took a sheet out of the Terminator there. So, let's see here. Alright, I got 30 seconds per game. I'll pop an aim in here. Ah, okay. The other thing about this game is that it stunted itself insofar that the SNK controller and the SNK cabinet had 6 buttons at your disposal, whereas this game you only had 3. This is the guy I want to play. Run, fight. Now, I will say the reason why I liked being able to play this game, the one appeal to it for me was that they had a character like this who is clearly a Bruce Lee clone. And as somebody who grew up absolutely worshiping the altar of all things Bruce Lee, I was more than happy to be able to give this a whirl. But this was very much the way it was in 1992, 93, because Street Fighter made that big of an impact. And to be fair, that's part of the reason why, to this point, I haven't played a Street Fighter 2 variant on this game, nor have I played Mortal Kombat. And it's not that I don't like those games, I like them very much. I mean, hell, I grew up on them, but it's the understanding of, and that's part of the reason why I both started this channel and started doing these sorts of features, was to kind of give you a bit of an idea of the history behind not just the genre themselves, but what was out there as far as contemporary ideas and concepts, and also how much different studios reacted to big landmark titles like Street Fighter 2. Like I was talking about yesterday with NBA Jam, that's a very good reason why NBA Jam is considered, over 25 years later, to be one of the best arcade games of all time. And one of the things I didn't mention in my feature on that, except as a passing note, was, you know, the financial impact of making games like this was absolutely titanic, because with as big a footprint that Street Fighter 2 carved out for itself, even a game like NBA Jam, in its first year alone in the US, brought in $300 million in arcades, which were considered a dying breed at that point in the early 90s. Thanks to consoles like the Super Nintendo, the NES, the Genesis, stuff like that, it still managed to bring in that much money and over $1 billion worldwide. Well, you think about how much Street Fighter 2 brought in for Capcom at that point in arcade play. And I don't have the exact figure for me, but it was at least that much, if not considerably more. So, of course, you're going to see competing studios try and jump on that and pull in as much of that overlap as they can. But realistically speaking, you're just not going to find stuff that will compare to the original Street Fighter 2. You know, you have Mortal Kombat, you have King of Fighters. It was about this time that they figured out they had to come up with something more unique than just cloning what they thought were the best elements of an already established game that was dominating the industry. So now we get to fight a wrestler who looks very much like Hulk Hogan. And that was the other thing about this game, is that unlike Street Fighter 2, you don't have any real special moves. It is much more, you know, along with the throws and everything else, it was just be able to make sure your attacks matched up and then make sure you don't get hit. So it's understanding, you know, how to be able to go high, when to go low, things like that, but you couldn't rely on fireballs. In that respect, it's not much different than Tekken. And Tekken is a game series that we haven't featured yet either, although that was something I debated about playing this week. And we will get to it at some point. Because Tekken was one of those franchises that, at the time, I played a little bit of it, but didn't get into as much as I could with other titles, so. And this guy is very much... Ooh, atomic knee drop. Ow. I was gonna say, he is... How he was still standing after that last shot into the nuts, I don't know. But, managed to pull that one out. So where are we going now? Now we're going back to China. And we're fighting Karn the Mongol. Ow, he threw me first. And I will say that, you know, the fighting does get a bit repetitive because you don't have special moves. You can't rely on things like hurricane kicks and fireballs and dragon punches and stuff like that. You know, in the as they expanded Street Fighter 2, obviously, Capcom put in their own Bruce Lee clone in Fei Long, who has his lightning kicks or his fire kicks and all that stuff. Oh my god, he actually beat me. I had him dead to rights. See, I was up at least 30% on him, and he took me out. Alright, dude. And in most games like this, if you manage to stay alive until the timer runs out, it's whoever's at the most life at the end of it wins the battle. There aren't really no draws in this. Well, I think he's got me here. Yeah, he does. They have the reach advantage. Alright, we'll try this again. But yeah, World Heroes also came out on the Genesis Mega Drive. There we go. That's what I wanted you to do. In later years, they have reissued it on the they even came out with a version of it on a compilation for the PS2 and put it on the PSN. Although nowadays, I don't know if you're able to find it. It never did get put out on the Microsoft Network or the Xbox 360 or anything like that. So if you're a Microsoft player and you were looking to try this, unfortunately, you're kind of SOL here. Oh, I had a chance to get him on the stun and I didn't do it. Alright, come on, dude. There we go. But when World Heroes 2 Jet came out in 94, when this first game came out in 92, each sequel came out in each successive year. So the sequel came out in 93, Jet came out in 94, and then World Heroes Perfect came out in 95. But they also came out with a Game Boy version of this, which I can't imagine was all that great, because even being able to play on a spinach green screen... Ow. Oh, did I get him? Or is it a draw? Oh, it's a draw! So we actually finally got a draw. We took each other out. But I can't imagine playing this on a Game Boy screen. Unless it was like, if it was something from an advanced or later. Because on an original Game Boy, this would just not work. At least not to me. Oh, now we're all square at one. And also, speaking of how rudimentary this is, there is nothing like a block gauge. There's no super attack gauge. A lot of the stuff that you would see featured in later SNK titles, like Samurai Shodown, that introduced those. There we go. Finally gets through this jerk. None of that was even considered at this point. So now where are we going? We're going... yeah, it's Rasputin, so we're going to Russia. Him and his big yellow feet and hands. And somehow he's got this shield up. Ow. I gotta be able to find a way to break that shield, but there's nothing there. Seriously, I got, what, 2 hits on him? And that was it. And as far as I know, Rasputin is not a boss. And I just tried to throw him, and instead he put me in that bear hug. There we go. So it looks like what I need to do is I need to get around him enough and just keep throwing him. Instead, he crunches me. And he did it again. Is this it? Nope. That's it. So the thing with Rasputin is you've got to get behind him enough and then throw him. But that's pretty cheap right there. So the normal and deathmatch features, if I understand it, deathmatch you just get 1 shot at him. If you lose, that's it. Ow. But I have to admit, part of the thing I find amusing about this game is the whole idea of going back to a point where all the things we take for granted in fighting games now, they're not an option. Oh, come on. There we go. You gotta be able to know when to go high or low. So we got 1 on him. But when you strip away all the elements, and in that respect, it's a lot like Bushido Blade, which we played a couple of weeks ago. Of when you don't have those things to lean on, you're just left with the basic aspects of it. Oh, that was a lot easier. So it looks like once you beat him the first time, he gets more reliant on his utilizing a fireball, which is the first time I've seen anybody have that sort of attack in this game. So now we're going to Germany. Yep, we're fighting Brocken the Cyborg. Go, go, gotcha, German. Who is very much like a combination between Dalsim and Vega. And that he has the extendable limbs, but still no match for me. So I've lost track at this point, and I think this is my 6th or 7th fighter I'm challenging. Which means I've only got 2 more to go. So in theory, if I can hold this up, I could beat this game in half an hour. So I could have potentially made a 1-day feature out of this, but, well, or a 1-day playthrough, I should say. Ow. Oh, came back and got him. Whew, that was looking sketchy for a bit. But we put him down, so who's next? Okay, and what's the bonus here? Oh, so he does have a special move. And because the controls are so basic, even things like you don't have a heavy punch, you don't have a heavy kick, you know, it's just you, if you can land, you land. So what do we get out of that? We hit 13 of them. I guess we didn't get it. So I'm not sure what we would have gotten out of that. So the main character in this game is actually a ninja named Hattori Hanzo. And Fuma is his Ken, for lack of a better term. So they, of course, went right after the Ryu Ken dynamic. But in this case, utilized two ninjutsu practitioners and gave them the Dragon Punch. And wow, did he just wipe the floor with me.
Round 2, fight.
Okay, so don't jump on him. Oh. Okay. Well, that ended up being a bit unpleasant. But I'm almost there. See if we can get him. Okay, we're just gonna sit there and throw that thing, man. That's great. Oh. Damn it, I'm not trying to jump. There, that's what I wanted to do. I want to throw it. He still came back and kicked me and put me down. Alright. Well, let's see if we can get our first win here. Ooh, and he threw me instead. Alright, not looking good. There. I had myself wide open too. I was like, oh crap. Come on. Alright, this will decide it. Ooh, ow. Didn't mean to do that. There we go. Not good. Oh, really not good. I need to get the mother of all comebacks here. Ah, I tried to hit him with the dragon kick and that didn't work. Ah! Timed it wrong and I was running out of time anyway. So, well, we are at half an hour and I'm making progress through this game. So that, guys, is the original World Heroes for the SNK Neo-Geo from 1992. Like I said, I wanted to show you this game because it gave you an idea of what was out there at the same time that Street Fighter II was just completely blitzing the gaming landscape and what other companies are trying to do to catch up, and then how quickly this game faded into obscurity after SNK created the King of Fighters franchise. So I would recommend you try it if you want to go back and do something truly, truly old school like this. Again, I think I've done a pretty good job of showing you its limitations and where it's lacking by comparison to modern games, but still a bit of fun if you really want to go back for that old school feel. And if you've enjoyed that, best way you can show it, as always, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, ring the bell to be notified of the latest content. Also, don't forget about Sports Saturday coming up this next week. And also, remember, our new playthrough starts tomorrow. I got to get a few graphical elements put together on that later today, and then we should be all set. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at Retrocade. Help us hit our goal of 100 subscribers as soon as possible. And if there is any game you would like to see us feature from the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super Nintendo, Sega Master System, Genesis, or Mega Drive, SNK Neo-Geo, Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1, or PlayStation 2, leave it in the comments below, drop me a tweet, and it can be any game from those consoles over the course of that 25-year period that you want. As always, my name is Ronin. Have a great rest of your Sunday, everybody. Be safe, be well, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.